Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, whether at home in Grenada, Carriacou, or Petite Martinique, or abroad, and a very special greeting to the young people of Grenada. 3.5 weeks ago, I was given the honor of being placed at the helm of the political leadership of the National Democratic Congress, with a clear mandate to advance and strengthen our political party for service to the Grenadian people. I feel deeply privileged to lead this party, and it is my intention to keep us focused upward and onward in a new dispensation for our country. Our party is about people development and positive attitudes, about building on people's giftedness and talents, and avoiding the constant criticism of people and the tearing down attitudes of some of our Grenadians. Putting people first remains our motto and our commitment to national development. I speak to you with every believer's confidence that the wisdom of leadership comes from God, and the strength to build a nation comes from God. The opportunity to lead comes from the people. Leadership for me is about service, about respect for the people we serve, about listening to people, about the empowering of others to be the best that they could be. Leadership is about togetherness and building community and letting people's opinions be freely expressed through the democratic process. Our families need the best provision we can make. All classes of citizens deserve the best environment in which to pursue their important interests, assured of the protection of their rights and freedoms. I am convinced that our young people deserve the best support and opportunities that we can offer, allowing them to dream and the chance to make that dream a reality. I declare that my leadership promise and purpose is for the welfare and prosperity of all the Grenadian people, and my vision is for a better place for our young people. I stand on respect for everyone. In the pursuit of the development of Grenada, I will rely on strong partnerships with the business community, investors, civil society groups, small entrepreneurs, farmers, fishermen, vendors, and the working people as a whole. The good things we want for Grenada will not come if we are a divided nation or if we are swimming in a pool of corruption. Giving supporters of one side only housing materials, scholarships, road jobs, and leaving out others divides our nation. Instead, it requires us working together with prudence, sacrifice, and with patriotic fervor, and in harmony with each other. We must return to the values that we have held dear for our country: responsible driving on the nation's roads, caring about people, good attitudes to work, looking out for the elderly and the vulnerable. Everything is not about instant money. In the period ahead, you can expect us to knock on your door wherever you may be. When you hear our knock, please know that our desire is to establish and thereafter sustain a good quality relationship. I look forward to your sharing and advice and encouragement. Going forward, my duty as leader is to inspire all the people to believe and hope that we can build a better Grenada. My resolve as a leader is to uphold parliamentary democracy, the rule of law, good governance, and accountability. My leadership posture is that of open arms. My commitment is service to the nation. I look forward to your support in various ways as we come together to move this nation forward. Most of all, I look forward to you knowing me well as a friend, neighbor, citizen, and especially as a strong, capable, inspirational, and trustworthy leader of the people, a woman with a heart for people. And now our comments and concerns from the National Democratic Congress on our national budget 2020. Please bear in mind that our role in opposition is to critique the budget, to look for the drawbacks and inaccuracies that may create problems for all of us, and to suggest ways in which improvements could be made and NDC might have done things differently. The annual budget is supposed to report comprehensively on the economic performance of the country for the past year, and it should be factual and not selective to project a good image. It must also project what is to take place in the coming year. Although the projected revenue for 2020 is $786.2 million, there is no mention of how this money will be generated. There is no indication about if there will be any new tax measures coming in. Should we be expecting any new taxes during the year? The budget needs to be clear on these issues to instill some confidence in the economy. It should let the people know what taxes to expect, if any. It is well known that the social partners initiated the discussion on the National Sustainable Development Plan, the NSDP, which started off as being projections for 2016 to 2030, but is now 2020 to 2035. A final draft was recently completed, and when we thought it would return to the people for a final feedback and comments, it was rushed through Parliament for approval. We of the National Democratic Congress are recommending that a final round of targeted consultation be held throughout the country so that we have a shared vision for the future of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Ladies and gentlemen, if there isn't buy-in and a sense of ownership from around the country, we run the risk of it not happening. The plan must meet the vision of the Grenadian people. Further to that, although the plan was presented as a framework within which the 2020 budget will operate, the actual content reflects a continuation of the policies pursued in 2018 and 2019. It is not well aligned to the 2035 National Sustainable Development Plan, the NSDP. It is therefore necessary to formulate a 3-year medium-term strategy to guide the preparation and process of the annual budget. With respect to the regional economic performance and Grenada's fiscal performance, the Minister pointed out that average economic growth in the independent countries of the CARICOM community is projected to increase from 2.7% in 2019 to 8.8% in 2020, largely driven by the oil find in Guyana. That does not tell the entire story. Guyana's economy is projected to grow by 86.7% and will be the fastest growing economy in the world because of its oil find. Where is Grenada's oil wealth, Mr. Prime Minister? Were we not told at that final rally in Pearls before the general election in 2018 that it was all about to happen for Grenada and that the Grenadian people should not put their newfound oil and wealth into the hands of the NDC? Where is Grenada's oil money today? Has the Prime Minister given a report on Grenada's oil money in the 2020 budget? Are the words oil and gas mentioned in the 2020 budget at all? As a people, we must ask ourselves what explains the difference between the Grenada oil and gas situation and the Guyana oil and gas situation. The budget presentation did not review the performance of the Grenada economy generally and within the context of the OECS. We have been hearing about the strong growth in the economy for several years. But while the OECS economy is projected to have grown by 4% in 2019, Grenada's projected growth is 3.2%, well below the average of 4% for the rest of the OECS countries, who incidentally are not under the IMF iron grip like Jamaica and Grenada, and they are surviving. Further, the estimated budget for 2020 is $1.15 billion and is the same as was presented in 2016. With respect to fiscal performance, our minister says Grenada's fiscal performance continues to be strong. Let us examine together what the actual numbers look like for the first half of the year, January to June 2019. It should be noted that according to the agreement with the IMF, government is supposed to print its monthly fiscal summary. They have printed January to June and nothing since June. which prompts us to believe they want the freedom to make pronouncements in the budget which cannot be tested or verified. What do the numbers show as of the end of June 2019? They were to receive $183.7 million in grants in 2019. By the end of June, they had collected $31.2 million, which is 16%. Though we have been told that the international agencies were eager to give Grenada money because of government's good management of the economy. So we expected $183 million and we received $31 million. They plan to expend $196.4 million on capital projects in 2019, but by the end of June 2019, they had spent only $23.7 million. Is it reasonable to expect that between July and December of 2019, they would find a way to bring this up to an expenditure of $100.5 million spent on capital projects? Not at all likely. And in any event, that would still give a 51% implementation rate. The minister has announced that the unemployment has dropped from 40% in 2013 to 15%. We know that the claim of 40% was a myth in the mind of the minister and an election ploy that has long been debunked. I won't go any further with that. But the question we must ask is that if capital expenditure is shrinking and employment is going up, then where are these people working? What productive activity are they engaged in? In the 2019 budget, the government projected that they would have spent $332 million. That is $82.5 million less than what they said they would spend, 20% less. What explains this in an economy that is strong? Wrapping up on economic performance, I will say a few words on Grenada's international trade position. Today, Grenada imports $634.1 million worth of goods. Our food import bill is $120.4 million. Our fuel bill is $108.9 million. At the other end, Grenada exports $47.4 million. Our trade deficit is $586.7 million, more than $500 million. How does all of this add up to a good economy, good management, and allow the minister the projections he has made for the July-December 2019 period? Sisters and brothers, the economic situation in the country is being promoted as prospering. But in reality, most of us are going through very difficult times. Most families are struggling tooth and nail to meet their basic needs and are literally living from hand to mouth. We hear about big land sales and big projects, but none of this seems to find its way to trickle down into the hands of the population. Further, they are often from questionable sources. We have poor support services in health. Our roads have reached a new level of deterioration with the potholes. Lawless delinquency on the roads, high quantities of drugs and related violence. Everything is valued by money. Many returned Grenadians who could help with an invaluable contribution, but are regarded as JCBs, are not used. The society is on a heavy decline of moral degradation. There's a sense of hopelessness that pervades the society. However, some are making it though. According to the estimates of an international economist and philanthropist, about 9 to 10% of the population is better off. Just about 4% are foreigners, and the remaining 5.5% are government officials and other individuals and friends. So there are people doing well. The remaining 91% of the population are getting poorer and are struggling for survival and being told how well the economy is doing. Let it trickle down. The middle class is getting poorer and the poor are becoming destitute. Unfortunately, a country cannot be built that way. One set will pull the other down. We need all to rise, to varying degrees, but to experience a better standard of living. The older citizens upon whose labor the rest of us now stand must have certain concessions in place and must have housing allocations. They must not be seen to be seeing trouble in our society. Women's causes are also well behind where they should be, and children's safety issues. Apart from the construction in the south of the island, mainly associated with SGU, the rest of the country is not feeling the economic growth at all. Debt repayment is good. It ensures you get more to borrow and it lowers the GDP, but it does not grow the economy. It cannot improve the well-being of the people because the money earned is not enough to cover basic needs, plus provide disposable income to play with. The jobs in Grenada are mostly low-income jobs. Skills people make a little more, but overall income has not gone up. The statistics may look good, but it has little to do with the prosperity of the people. We need to deliberately address this. We need to focus on high-end skills and on niche markets and things we have an advantage with, for example, chocolate, coconut, nutmeg, soursop, tourism, and so on. The focus must be on national development and not on personal power and votes. The 2020 budget is supposed to focus on 4 thematic areas: strengthening our institutions, empowering our communities, growing our economy, protecting our environment. Brothers and sisters, all Grenadians should be able to access healthcare services without being impoverished. We welcome the initiative that is finally coming on stream with Grenadian Dr. Kester Ned and JIPA. It means National Health Insurance, but must carry with it primary healthcare initiatives and the new hospital recommended by PAHO WHO, along with some other initiatives. I wish to remind this population that 17 out of the 21 steps outlined as necessary by the World Bank body IFC, that's the International Finance Corporation, to build a hospital with teaching facilities were taken during the 4.5-year period that NDC was in power. It was to be managed by IFC for the first 18 years to ensure international standards, but using Grenadian labor. There was a partnership portion of the yearly costs to be paid by SGU. We are now back to square one again because the initiative was not followed through for partisan politics reasons. NDC would look too good. Recent estimates show that Grenadians are paying over 50% of the country's health expenditure out of their pockets. Only 10% of the population have health insurance, according to the health insurance data. And so, if you don't have money, you cannot comfortably access healthcare services. In 2011, the National Democratic Congress government established the National Health Insurance Committee under the chairmanship of the then Senator Chester Humphrey to make this happen. Here we are back to square one again. When we examine the health policy initiatives of the last 6 years, we see a disjointed, unplanned approach that has been heavily politicized. It has been over 3 years that government has set different dates to implement the national health insurance. For God's sake, let us get ahead with it. People need to afford their medications and their health care. I participated in the recent National Health Insurance Conference and gave the assurance that NDC will support the efforts of JIPA and Dr. Ned to design a national health insurance plan that will be an integral part of universal health care. Brothers and sisters, we cannot build a country without educationally empowering our people. No stone must be left unturned in providing the opportunities and the resources to give every child a chance. We must not settle for less. Changes have been made to the system that must be upheld, such as the introduction and expansion of technical education in primary as well as secondary schools, equal in emphasis to the academic thrust and the personal development skills. According to UNESCO, an education system cannot rise above the level of its teachers. Where they are, there it will be. NDC brought us from 19% degree qualified and trained to 50% degree qualified and trained by paying for 2 of the 3 years of degree training. You cannot have children brighter and with more knowledge in the subject area than their teachers. We must work closely with parents and communities to make educational opportunities happen. And now on the matter of empowering our communities. We see manpower expenditure to be reduced from $6.5 million in 2019 to $4 million in 2020. Youth in agriculture receives a small sum of $300,000 for 100 young people to engage in pig, poultry, and crop production on 4 government estates at the rate of $50 a day and 250 working days a year. The cost is well into $1.5 million. The new Imani program moves from $22.2 million to $17.8 million, 20% reduction. The Needy Assistance Program is reduced by 30% from $3.1 to $2.2 million. And the seed expenditure will be reduced from $18 million to $14.3 million. With respect to affordable housing, government says that 647 housing units are being constructed. Is this in addition to the Chinese housing, or is this the Chinese housing? We need to understand clearly what is happening and give credit where credit is due. With respect to farm labor support, in a budget of $1.5 billion, $1 million is allocated for farm labor support. This provides clear evidence that this government is not serious about agriculture. The Burial Assistance Program, what we can gather from the statements made by the minister, is that it would seem that the program is being scrapped. The question must be asked, what happens to those families who cannot afford to bury their dead with a little dignity? When we speak of strengthening our institutions, we expect the necessary steps to be taken, management-wise, to ensure those who take a joyride on the public purse, spending up to $70,000 on unauthorized phone calls in 3 months, will be called upon to pay all the money back. This is the essence of bad management. We welcome the announcement to digitize the government services, such as the situation in the deeds and land registry. We need to do it, not promise every year to do it, but to take concrete action to make it happen. There are also NGO agencies that would give manpower assistance in this regard. We welcome the pronouncement that steps are being taken to rebuild the Governor General's residence, the halls of justice, and the long overdue police headquarters. It should be noted, however, that these promises are not new. In the 2013 budget, for example, the minister boasted that it was a shame the Governor General's residence had not been constructed after all these years, and he was going to do something about it. Here we are promising again. In final summary, I wish to mention some allocations that are of concern to us. The Office of the Prime Minister, which produces non-marketable goods or services, is allocated $7,650,000. In contrast to the Ministry of Agriculture, which is supposed to guide our national food and nutrition security and reduce our import bill, etc., allocated $5,961,000. The Ministry of Tourism is allocated $5,795,000. And it's supposed to be the provider of strategic leadership and development to the tourism sector. And Carriacou and Petit Martinique, $4,524,000 to meet all the capital needs of the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Having announced 6 years ago with great aplomb that the government was going to build a new airport in Carriacou, In 2020, it is now allocating 500,000 to add 250 feet to both ends to the existing airport. We must, as a people, hold our governments accountable to deliver what they promise or give a good explanation for it. The police, who are charged with the responsibility to protect our society and protect the enviable asset of national safety, are provided $3 million. Not surprisingly, the public sector investment program contains little substance and repeats previous year's promises in small business development, rural development, tourism, agriculture, tourism product, feeder roads, St. Patrick's Road rehabilitation, Morris Bishop Airport, etc. We welcome the initiatives of the private sector to create business and employment opportunities for our people. We remain deeply concerned about opportunities and diversification of ideas for development in the rural communities. Opportunities, for example, like the UWI campus that would have brought so many possibilities to the St. Andrews and St. David's communities on the East Coast. We must also state clearly the support for youth entrepreneurs struggling so hard to get their fledgling businesses off the ground, and those just off the ground that are holding their own and need support. They must be given their concessions just like the foreign ones, and not on a basis of who they support politically. We also view with great concern Grenada's ease of doing business ranking from the World Bank, which has dropped from last year and which ranks Grenada as 147th among the 189 countries and lowest ranking of Caribbean countries apart from Haiti. Finally, brothers and sisters, we must commit, because we have no choice anymore, to a bigger team of persons managing our environmental concerns in keeping with international standards for the Caribbean. We recognize the efforts being made by communities and government, especially in areas like banning plastics and so on, but it requires more people to do the work effectively. Fellow Grenadians, friends, the 2020 budget does not address the realities affecting the people of Grenada. The NDC will monitor the implementation of the budget and continue to seek the interests of Grenadian people. I want to assure all Grenadians that the NDC will operate on the principle of developing our people as our most valuable resource. We must show love and mutual respect for each other and be united in the interest of our country. I give you my commitment to serve my party and country in the interest of all Grenadians, and I ask for your support in this endeavor. May God bless our nation.